You step into a cave, and the wall looks back at you. Not with eyes, with animals. Horses, lions, bison, hands, strange half-human bodies, all waiting in the dark as if the stone itself has been dreaming. For most of your life, belief is something kept in books, temples, screens, and private thoughts. But for your Stone Age ancestors, belief may have lived in bone, blood, firelight, red powder, animal tracks, and the deep echo of caves. There were no written prayers, no holy books, no carved commandments. So how do you find a belief system when the people who held it left no words behind? You look for the things they did when survival alone does not explain the effort. You look for red ochre carried miles from its source. You look for bodies placed carefully in the ground. You look for animal images painted where almost no one could see them. You look for impossible creatures, part human and part beast, carved from mammoth ivory by hands that also needed to hunt, sew, cook, and stay alive. That is where the weirdness begins. The first strange belief may have been that color had power, not decoration, power. Across Stone Age sites, archaeologists keep finding ochre, an iron-rich mineral that can be ground into red, yellow, or brown powder. In plain English, ochre is earth that bleeds color. Why would your ancestors care so much about red dust? At Blombos Cave in South Africa, archaeologist Christopher Henshelwood and his team found pieces of engraved ochre and even ancient pigment toolkits. Some of this material is tens of thousands of years older than the famous painted caves of Europe. The exact meaning is debated because archaeology is not mind-reading, but the pattern is hard to ignore. People were grinding color, storing color, marking objects with color, carrying color into their lives long before cities, farming, or writing. Imagine crouching beside a fire with a flat stone in your lap. You grind a red lump against another stone. Powder gathers under your fingers. Maybe you smear it on skin before a hunt. Maybe you mark a body before burial. Maybe you paint a symbol that tells another person where you belong. Or maybe red simply feels like life itself, because it looks like blood, birth, wounds, heat, and the setting sun. What would red mean to you if every drop of blood could mean danger, and every birth could mean survival? The weird part is not that Stone Age humans liked color. The weird part is that color may have been a bridge between the visible and the invisible. A dead animal becomes meat. A wounded body leaks red. A newborn arrives covered in red. A sunset stains the world red, and then darkness comes. Your ancestors may not have separated these things the way modern life does. To them, red may have connected body, earth, death, and return. A color could become a kind of force. Then there is the belief that the dead were not just gone. This is one of the oldest and most emotional clues in human prehistory. When a body is placed carefully, when it is covered with ochre, when tools or ornaments appear beside it, archaeologists begin to ask whether the living imagined something after death. Not necessarily heaven, not necessarily a soul in the modern sense, just the possibility that the dead still mattered. At sites such as Sungir in Russia, Upper Paleolithic burials included thousands of ivory beads and carefully arranged bodies. At Dolny Vistonec in the Czech Republic, archaeologists found unusual Ice Age burials with bodies placed in deliberate positions. These are not simple trash pits. They are acts of attention. Attention costs time. Time costs food. Food costs risk. So why spend precious energy on someone who can no longer hunt, gather, carry, or speak? Because the dead may still have had a place in the group. Your ancestors could have feared them, loved them, asked them for help, remembered them as warnings, or treated them as part of a world where the boundary between living and dead was thinner than yours feels today. A grave is not proof of one exact belief, but a grave is proof that the body was not treated like ordinary waste. That alone changes everything. Picture a small group at night. The fire is low. Someone has died. No one says a written prayer, because writing does not exist. Instead, hands dig into cold ground. Red powder touches skin. A necklace is placed near the chest. A tool is laid beside the body. A child watches, learning without explanation that death has rules. What kind of world teaches you that even a silent body must be handled with care? The next weird belief may have been that animals were not just animals. They were persons of another kind, not pets. Not symbols in the simple modern sense. Powerful neighbors. At Chauvet Cave in France, the walls carry lions, rhinos, horses, mammoths, and bears drawn with astonishing skill. Jean Clotz, one of the major researchers associated with the cave, helped bring global attention to how old and complex this art really was. These images were made deep underground, in places where normal life did not happen. That matters. If you only wanted to decorate, you could paint near the entrance. You could paint where children played and people slept. But many painted caves pull you away from daylight, through narrow passages, into chambers where sound changes and torchlight flickers. The cave becomes another kind of place. Your breathing gets louder. Your shadow grows strange. A painted animal appears to move as the flame shakes. Is it a picture, or is it a presence? Archaeologist David Lewis Williams famously argued that some cave art may connect to altered states of consciousness. That phrase simply means unusual states of mind, caused by trance, rhythm, darkness, fasting, pain, fear, or intense concentration. His shamanic interpretation is debated, and careful archaeologists do not treat it as certain. But the idea is powerful because it explains why the caves feel less like galleries and more like thresholds. A threshold is a border you cross. Daylight on one side, something else on the other. Now imagine holding a torch inside a cave. The flame licks the air. A bison painted on a bulging wall seems to breathe because the rock itself gives it muscle. A crack becomes a mouth. A bump becomes a shoulder. You do not see a flat picture. You see an animal emerging from stone. For a person who lives by tracking, hunting, avoiding, and respecting animals, that is not a small thing. What if the cave wall was not a surface, but a skin? This leads to one of the strangest Stone Age beliefs of all, the belief that humans and animals could mix. The Lion Man from Hohenstein-Stedel in Germany is one of the most haunting objects ever found from the Ice Age. It is carved from mammoth ivory. It has a human-like body and the head of a cave lion. It is tens of thousands of years old, and it took enormous effort to make. Jill Cook of the British Museum has written about Ice Age art and the arrival of the modern mind. That phrase does not mean ancient people suddenly became intelligent in one magical moment. It means objects like the Lion Man show a mind that could imagine beings no one had ever seen with ordinary eyes. A lion human does not walk past your camp in the morning. You have to combine two worlds inside your head. Human body, animal power, one figure. Why would anyone make that? Maybe it was a spirit. Maybe it was a story being. Maybe it represented a person wearing an animal identity in ritual. Maybe it was not worshipped at all, but held, remembered, feared, or performed. No one can say with certainty, but the object tells you something crucial. Your ancestors were not only recording the world, they were remixing it. They were asking what a human could become. They were imagining that the border between your body and the animal world was not sealed. That belief feels weird today because modern life trains you to separate categories. Human here, animal there, nature outside, culture inside. But Stone Age life did not work like that. Animals fed you, killed you, clothed you, guided you, warned you, and filled your dreams. A lion was not just a lion. A bear was not just a bear. A mammoth was not just meat. Each creature carried a way of moving through the world that you might envy, fear, or borrow. So let's reconstruct a night. You are not in a city. You are not in a bedroom. You are in a camp on the edge of Ice Age Europe. Wind moves through dry grass. Someone brings out a small carved figure wrapped in hide. Children lean closer. Adults fall quiet. The firelight catches the head of a lion on a human body. No one needs to explain that this thing is not ordinary. Your skin knows before your words do. The figure might come with a story. A hunter who became a lion who taught people to hunt, an ancestor who moves between worlds, a warning about pride, hunger, courage, or death. Maybe the story changes each time it is told. That is how living belief works. It is not frozen in a book. It breathes through voices. Then, thousands of years later, another strange belief appears in stone. At Göbekli Tepe in what is now Turkey, Klaus Schmidt recognized that huge carved pillars on a hill were not ordinary ruins. The site dates to the early Neolithic, the period when some hunter-gatherers were beginning to live in more settled ways, but before pottery farming villages fully dominated the region. In plain English, this is a world on the edge of becoming the world you know. And on that edge, people built monumental stone circles. The weird belief here is not just that people had sacred places. It is that people may have gathered to build sacred places before they had fully settled into farming life. For a long time, many modern people assumed farming came first. Food surplus first, villages first, temples later. But Göbekli Tepe complicates that simple order. Ritual may not have been a luxury after survival. Ritual may have helped organize survival. Think about what that means. A belief can move stones. A belief can gather strangers. A belief can make people return to the same hill again and again. A belief can turn labor into identity. The pillars at Göbekli Tepe are carved with animals, arms, belts, and mysterious signs. Again, certainty is impossible. But the site shows that imagination was not private. It could become architecture. It could reshape a landscape. Here is the counterintuitive twist. The weirdest Stone Age beliefs may not have been primitive mistakes. They may have been survival technologies, not technology made from metal, technology made from meaning. A burial teaches a group how to handle grief. A painted cave teaches awe, memory, and fear. A red pigment marks identity. A lion human gives shape to power. A sacred gathering place turns scattered people into a community. Belief helps a fragile animal cooperate. That fragile animal is you. Your body is not the strongest body in nature. Your teeth are not impressive. Your claws are gone. Your babies are helpless for years. Your skin tears easily. But your species can gather around invisible ideas. You can organize around a story. You can suffer for a symbol. You can protect a grave, paint a wall, carve a monster, or build a circle of stone because something unseen feels real enough to command action. Modern life has not escaped this. It has only changed the objects. You still treat some colors as powerful. Red still means danger, love, blood, urgency, warning, and celebration. You still keep photographs of the dead and speak to people who cannot answer. You still turn animals into mascots, spirits, brands, heroes, monsters, and mirrors of yourself. You still gather in places made important by shared belief. A stadium, a courthouse, a monument, a church, a national border, a glowing screen. The Stone Age mind is not as distant as it seems. You may not paint bison by torchlight. You may not grind ochre in an abalone shell. You may not carry a lion human through the dark. But your brain still looks for hidden meaning when life feels too large, too dangerous, or too painful to face as random noise. You still want signs. You still want patterns. You still want the dead to matter and the future to listen. So the next time an ancient belief sounds strange, pause before laughing. A red hand on a cave wall may be more than superstition. A painted animal may be more than art. A grave may be more than sadness. A carved monster may be more than imagination. These things may be evidence of the first humans trying to negotiate with fear, hunger, death, memory, and hope. You step into a cave, and the wall looks back at you. Now you understand why. It is not only the wall, it is the oldest part of your own mind, still searching the dark for something that answers.